If failure for you is losing a game, then you failed. But if failure from you is, okay, I lost the game, what can I do to make sure that that doesn't happen again? You might have lost the game, but that is a success. Learning from it is the success part of failure. Failure is something that is often asked about on the groups and in our Instagram replies and everything like that. What are your thoughts on failure as an adult?
I think it's one of the things that really plague us. And I was browsing through Kindle books last night, and I stumbled upon this book that talked about our entire life is just about worrying about the future and being plagued about the past.
I think that we are living in an age where we feel failure so much more because of the pressure that we put upon ourselves to succeed. The thought of failure is always so much more magnified by the amount of pressure that is put upon us.
Yeah, and when you look at it, everything is on social media now. And so it's so easy for people to berate you and tell you when you're wrong. As compared to before, you only depend on your friends, your family, and the people around you to tell you that. And both Aaron and myself, we both agreed that failure is one of those things that we rarely talk about. As an adult, you always talk about how do you achieve success? How do you handle your emotions in your relationships? How do you become a better part of society without really addressing failure? But how common is failure in both our lives, right?
I agree. And I think that the only type of failure that a lot of people are comfortable with talking about is the failure in relationships. But failure in life is something that no one likes to talk about because it makes them look weak.
And I actually found this article online from lifewithconfidence.com, how to deal with failure. And the first point that it says is to define failure.
Yes.
Don't define failure according to whatever the world tells you what failure is. Define it for yourself. What is failure for you? What does failure mean to you? This is an important one to figure out, as it's your beliefs around failure that will determine how you react when it happens.
If failure for you is losing a game, then you failed. But if failure from you is, okay, I lost the game, what can I do to make sure that that doesn't happen again? You might have lost the game, but that is a success. Learning from it is the success part of failure.
Point number 2 is to learn positive reframing. Positive reframing means that instead of focusing on what failed, focus on what went right.
Yes.
Take a step back and look at the situation from a different perspective. And, some of the things that they suggest on this blog post, it says, focus on what needs to be changed so it does work, which is what we were talking about just earlier. Figure out what resources you could use to make it work. Third, use what you've learned to encourage yourself to work wiser and work harder. Fourth, think of it like Edison did, or Thomas Edison, if you guys didn't know, when he invented the light bulb, in that you've now discovered one more way that it doesn't work, so you're now closer to figuring out the real solution. So the third one naman, let's move on to this one. I feel like with failure, after you've defined it, after you've seen it from afar and tried to do positive reframing, the next important thing that you have to do, which it also is mentioned here, is to be accepting of failure. When failure happens, and of course it will, accept that failures happen to everyone, not just you.
I think a lot of people consider success to be, okay, I did one thing and it'll go straight to the end result that I wanted. But that's not the way that it works. I always looked at in my life that every failure is like a little bit of a turn that you got to make. If you're thinking about it as a straight line, it's a little curve that you need to take, or you need to take a little bit of a detour to get there. Does it mean that it'll get you there faster? No, because it'll never happen, but it will get you there eventually, as long as you keep learning from it. And I love the fact that you were talking about it. I think that we were on the same thing. Gosh, yeah, great minds.
On the same page. Yeah. Okay, one other thing, you were talking about that, right? The accepting and seeing success not as a straight line, but an undulation. Of peaks and troughs. But you have to also be accepting in the sense that there will be emotions attached to the disappointments of failure. And I feel like for you to go through failure and actually thrive and go over that hump, you have to accept first the feeling of disappointment and the feelings, whatever negative feeling is attached to that. And sometimes that negative feeling is not just yours, but it could also be your parents or your
Yes.
boss
Mm-hmm.
or your business partner. And you have to accept and honor those feelings of failure, of feelings of disappointment. You have to allow yourself to grieve the success that you thought you would have but didn't eventually attain.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, we move on to the next point of the
Okay,
article.
which is